Hello and welcome to another exciting on Sports. Yes, we have that name for a reason because we got two hosts named Santos. Chris Santos next to me. I'm Paul Santos, and we're really excited today because we are talking basketball, NBA, college, a little high school too, with legendary New Bedford High former basketball coach, 27 years at the helm there, including a couple of state championships, assistant coach over with Brian Baptiste at UMass Dartmouth for 5 years, and for the last 8 years, I can't believe it's been 8 years already, he's been the athletic director at Wareham, Mr. Eddie Rodrigues. Eddie, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're going to start just with the NBA real quick because, the Celtics got knocked off, kind of disappointing, and what happens, this is what I do. I do it in all the sports. I root for all the Boston teams. And then when the Boston team loses, then I have like a second team that I kind of root for. But with the NBA, it's kind of like a reverse. Anybody but Brooklyn. I just can't stand Brooklyn, and I'll give you 3 reasons. Kyrie, KD, and Harden. They're just so obnoxious. So I'm rooting against them. They had him on the ropes the other night. Milwaukee did. Oh, and they let it slip away. Oh, is anybody going to be able to stop him, Eddie?
I don't know. If Durant plays the way he played the other day, I don't know if anybody can stop him. He was phenomenal. I'm hoping they do. I mean, I'm not a Brooklyn Nets fan either. Excuse me. I do hope the Milwaukee Bucks come through because I enjoy watching them. I enjoy watching the way they play.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about the Celtics. What did you think about their season, and what did you like? What didn't you like, and what do you think for the future for them with the players that they have? What do you think they need to do?
I don't know. It seemed like it was just disappointing. It was like one period they play great, next period they don't play so well. One period they play hard, next game they don't play hard. This guy's out, this guy's in. I don't know. I just think that I'm not sure if the chemistry is what it is. They didn't seem to play hard all the time, and that's what was disappointing. A couple of years ago, I enjoyed watching them because they played so hard, and it was fun, even win or lose. But I just thought it was just too many inconsistencies, too many ups and downs, and they weren't as fun to watch as they had been in the past.
Is that a Brad Stevens thing to you, or is that something that, today's generation, how you have to be with the coach and so forth? And what do you think about the change of Brad now taking Danny's place and maybe what's coming in to replace him?
Well, it seems like they're going to have to probably have a former player. It seems like the guys relate to that a little bit better, I guess. But I think what happened with Brad, I think he did a good job early. And I think remember Franconi with the Red Sox, he did a great job. And all of a sudden they stopped listening to him. It seemed like that's what happened here. It seems like he didn't have a lot of control of what was going on. And I think that's what really hurt them. And maybe this was a time for a move for him. I don't know exactly what he's going to do now with that move, but they need a coach that I think can relate to players today, which is a lot different. I'm not sure if I could coach some of these guys today. There's a lot of prima donnas out there. It's like coach doesn't have a lot of say, I think, sometimes, and it's pretty tough. But
right. Well, you talked about chemistry. It's interesting just to kind of circle it around. I remember when you were coaching and you had the good fortune, of course, of the state championship seasons in 93 and 94. And I had enjoyed covering it and so forth. But I can remember in the, say, 4, 5, or 6 years leading up to those years, you had some great teams, but for some reason that just kind of, there's a couple of times there where it didn't come together for whatever reason. And then in 93, all of a sudden, when I remember looking at that team, I didn't think that was any better than some of those other teams. But then when you look in the Celtics, you had Irving and you had Hayward and you had Orford and you had Brown and Taylor, and they just couldn't put it together. They had a lot of talent there. So there is a chemistry thing that can happen sometimes.
Yeah, that 93 team was a team. They all had their roles. They all had their roles. They all did their thing, and there was no jealousy. There was Marcus Wills was the star, and everybody did their thing. And because of that, we were successful. It was fun. Up till then, I had a lot of good teams. Matter of fact, my nickname was Semifinal Ed because we couldn't get past the semifinal. And they used to bust me up. And I just remember one day at lunch, Mike Kudo. You guys all know Mike Kudo. So they had a thing at the time. Dunkin' Donuts can't win the big one. So we put all these little things inside the cup. How many ways can Ed Rodgers win the big one? He would bust me at lunch and stuff like that. And then finally, we got over the hump and we won it. Once we won it that first time, I don't know. It just was so much. Everything was a lot easier after that. It was hard. But it's hard. It's hard to be a state champion. You you got to hit the right shot. You got to make the right play. You got to have the right matchup. Things got to go your way. Like you said, the 93 team was good, but I don't know if it's better than some of my other teams, but they really were a good team.
Hey, Paul, the phone was ringing right in front of him. Maybe it was maybe it was Brad Stevens calling, saying, "Hey, Eddie, you want to do a little bit of coaching?"
Exactly.
I heard the phone ring. I don't know what was going on there for a minute.
Yeah, it was Brad. I said, I'm not available right now. I got a gig going in Wareham,
So, Eddie, at least in the last 8 years, now that you're an AD and you get a chance to sit more, really analyze the game as an athletic director, see a lot more playing. What has changed in your eyes in the style of basketball? We watched the other night, a lot of big guys taking three-pointers, not sitting down in the blocks anymore. A lot of that style of game. It's like the three-point line has really changed this game. And it's almost like you're teaching to shoot first and be a guard and then be a big man second. You see that too?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm still involved with basketball quite a bit with workouts, and I got my little grandsons coming up, and my daughter Gretchen, Ryan, Brett, all these guys. I'm constantly around them doing workouts and looking at things. So I don't care if you're a big little kid, you're doing all guard stuff, okay? Ball handling stuff, shooting, things of that nature. That's really important. Everybody wants to shoot. You don't really work on a lot of post moves. I don't really see that much. The big guys are all coming out. You play spread out. You play 4 out, sometimes 5 out. And so big guys are learning how to shoot. There aren't that many post players, to be honest with you. I don't see it being taught that much.
If you have a comment or a question for Eddie Rodrigues, type it right in and we'll let him know. I got a couple of comments so far. Reynald Cabral says, Eddie, you look just like your dad.
You know what? You say that, and I get that all the time. Matter of fact, that's happened to me several times. And they look at me like, wait a minute. I said, well, my father's passed away, but they look at me like we must have been clones, I guess. So, yeah.
Well, my dad knew your dad very well. And one time he came across a picture and, I didn't really know your dad much, but I saw the picture. I swear to God, it was you in the picture. It was unbelievable, And the second comment is, you're going to like this one, Eddie, because I'm cracking up over here. It's just the word semifinal. And who typed it in?
That's got to be Greg Parker.
Greg Parker.
That's got to be Greg Parker.
He's the one that called me, hey, semifinal, how are we doing today? And I go, so finally when we won it, it was nice. And, that was, to me, that was like the big monkey off my back, so to speak. You're so close, you're so close. And it's hard to do. I mean, I feel that's why any person that's coached a long time, I do wish that they can win a state championship, because it just makes a big difference in everything. I really do believe that.
Especially, New Bedford is a city that really, followed the basketball very closely. And so when there was some, disappointing years, Oh,
yeah. Well, the Bedford and Durfee, there's not anymore, but and that day it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
When we were in the state finals, people don't believe it. This is the truth. We had 30 school buses follow us. 30, not 5, 10, 30. I mean, and it was unbelievable. Another year we had 28. Durfee had the same type of following. So when we used to play each other, we could have played at the Providence Civic Center sometimes. I really believe that. And it's not like that anymore, but those were great. And, we talk about today's players, about what are the difference, I think. I hated Durfee. They hated me. Now, the other day, Kyrie Irving does what he does on the floor, and after the game, they're all hugging and kissing. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean,
I couldn't stand that.
Not like that when Larry Bird played? I don't think so.
Yeah, the funny thing is,
I'm not saying I hated them as people, but I hated Durfee. I wanted to beat them so bad, and they wanted to beat me so bad,
there's no question about it. The funny thing is, as years go by, I know we talked about it before, your relationship with Skippy was a little friction at the beginning, but then you grew to like each other and everything after that. But I can remember being at a New Bedford game and you see Skippy pacing back and forth. I'd be, look at that guy. He was so annoying. He was like, that was them and we were us. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The pressure of that game was off the chops. My wife would be sick all day. She said, she said, I feel awful because she didn't want to go to the game because it was, I acted like a nut and he acted like a nut, and it was very intense. It was fun. I miss the competition of something like that. It was nothing like that. You'll never have that in your life like that again, unless you're involved with something like that.
Eddie, you talk about great rivalries. Another one this year coming up, obviously, is Carolina and Duke, and the end of Coach K and his run there with Duke. This is his so long season to say, and it's time for him to go. Is there a certain way now that coaches realize, hey, this is a different kind of a game, and you got to be a different kind of coach to these kids, even in the NBA? And when did you know it was time to go for you? What finally said to you, I've had enough?
Well, I at that point, I made it for a different reason. Ryan, as you know, and Gretchen were both playing in college, and I was missing their games. And if I had a retrospect, I wasn't yet ready to retire. Maybe a few years later I would have, and that's why I did it. But today I can see why it's different. And what's caused a lot of these issues is AAU basketball, stuff like that, where these kids switch teams all the time, switch this. You play 5 or 6 games in a day. They don't have as much meaning. They're catered to all over the place, the big kids. They're traveling at 15 years old, 14 years old to Las Vegas, to Orlando, to wherever. And I think it's changed everything. I just think so now, they become the way they are in the NBA, and it is. It's got to be tough to coach in college too, a little bit like that, because you're one and done, and you got these great players, and I think guys like Krzyzewski probably said, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
All right, if you have a comment, let us know. Well, I just wanted to say Michael Consaccio typed in, that's my guy, gave me my first coaching job at New Bedford High School, and he was my backcourt teammate in the 35 and over league. Tremendous shooter and better person.
He was my guy that passed me the ball. I always used to say when I used to play pickup, when I'm picking people, I pick a passer, a rebounder, and a defender, because I figured I was going to take most of the shots. Mike was fun. I enjoyed playing with him. He's a great teammate, and he's a good person too. Really, really enjoy Mike very much.
And one of the things, coaches, that's been going on now, very interesting. We've had some local kids decide not to stay with their local high school and take off to Rhode Island, join some prep teams, do some different things. And now you're seeing in the NBA, and me and Paul have talked about this now for over months, the super teams. Is this even happening? High school, college? I mean,
I feel
what's going on with this? And is this going to be the new thing now from now on in NBA and working its way down all the way down to high school?
Well, I see it at Wareham. I mean, we've lost our top player every single year coming up. We've lost a really good player a year to a prep school. And, they play on these AAU teams that are really good. We always have we've been having one very good player that plays on the top AAU team. These AAU teams push them to go to prep school. They actually push them to stay back a year so that they're a year older when they're playing for their AAU team. And then they push them to go to certain prep schools, and that's it. And the heck with the high school team anymore. And it's hurt. It's hurt the Bedford, Wareham, teams like that. In Bedford, when I was in New Bedford, I never lost a player to anybody, but that's not the case anymore.
Right, we got a comment here from Butch Ferreira. Why isn't the New Bedford-Durfee rivalry in place like it was? Well, probably partly because of what you just said, right?
Yeah, the players, I'm being honest with you, the talent isn't the same as it was back then. And I think these kids, again, they're in so many different directions. It's like it's not the same. If New Bedford and Durfee both get to the point where they're, there were sometimes we were like number 1 and they were ranked number 2 in the state when we were playing the game. If they get to that point again, I guarantee you there'll be big crowds at those games.
Yeah, Coach. Right. Yeah. So, well, I mean, even to further that comment, there were games and times when you couldn't get a seat to watch you and Skippy Karaman, obviously, and them games go back. And then we saw obviously the transformation, and now certain players are not coming through. But do you think the level of talent in the area has decreased? And if it has, why has it? And what do they need to do to get it back?
Well, I'm not sure it's decreased. It might have a little bit. I just think that you're not seeing all the good players at the high schools. They're all going different places, different prep schools, even from like 7th and 8th graders. I know there's some good 7th and 8th graders that aren't going to go to Bedford High or to Bedford Voc or locally, whatever. They're going to go to a prep school. I see a lot of the kids working out because because my grandsons now, I'm involved in watching kids. There's still a lot of players. They just don't go to New Bedford schools anymore, or they're trying to go. They're being recruited to go to different places, and it's really hurt. So I'm not so sure the level is that much lower. The high school level game is lower because not all the best players are there anymore.
But when you were there, though, Eddie, the thing is that you had great traditions, you had great success. Why would kids decide to make that change when your program was good? That's the part that makes it tough for me to understand.
When I was coaching, if you played AAU, only the elite players played AAU. Now everybody and anybody plays AAU, and they think that they're going to get a college scholarship. But you got to go to prep school to get this scholarship. You can't go through the high school. So now they're all, well, I got to go to this prep school. I got to go there. And it works out for some kids. For many kids, it does not. And this is what's happened. So the tradition of New Bedford High basketball or Derby High basketball, it's just not the same. And it's pretty sad, to be honest with you. Yeah. I'm hoping that I'd like to see that get back to where it was, because that's, it's funny, when I coached for Brian, he said, hey, go watch Worcester Academy play so-and-so. Now don't watch your top 5 kids, because they're all going to, whatever, Boston College, whatever. But there's 2 or 3 kids on the bench that are be good Division III players. And I said, Brian, you know what? Send me to Newton North versus Needham, okay? I mean, there's a lot of Division III players there, but you know what? The place is packed. The excitement is there. You're playing for your local high school team, and it's fun. I go to these prep school games. They're all playing for themselves. They're playing for the name on their back, not the school. They're trying to get a scholarship. The intensity is not even close to what it is like at a good high school game.
Yeah, I think your wife popped her head in the background, and somebody said, Luann Davis Rebello said, "Hi, Connie."
Yeah, she's been at all these games. She sees me. She's seen the good times, the bad times, me acting like a nut, me acting normal, and now we're following our grandsons, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I know you're, a student of the game, or the basketball, the game that you love, and I watch a game, for the enjoyment, for the Celtics, watch the, the March Madness and all that, and the high school games enjoyed very much, of course. But I'm watching, just to focus on the NBA for a moment, and I'm thinking, it seems to me that maybe there could be some rule changes, the timeouts at the end of the game. They tried to fix it a little bit, but there'd be a timeout, then a commercial, and a timeout and a commercial in 5 seconds and 2 seconds and 3 seconds. Okay. And then the other thing I want to ask you, it does seem to me that the rules always favor the offensive player. You know what I mean? It seems like the defensive player has to get there like a cone before you can, get the charge. So, I don't know. What do you think about it? Have you ever thought about changes that could be made to make the game a little bit better?
Yeah, I just think they cut away from a lot of the rough stuff, as far as you can't even check coming through the lane. You can't do certain things. I think what happened was about 20 years ago, it got really rough. It got really crazy there. I remember the New York Knicks, Detroit Pistons, and all that was crazy. So they loosened up some of the rules. And now, I don't know, the other day I'm watching Harden drive down the lane, and I'm saying to myself, my God, if this was 20 years ago, he would have got killed. And it's loosened up to the point where, I don't know, they don't let you do anything anymore. Any little thing is a foul and stuff like that. There's too many fouls.
Right.
Last few minutes of the game, oh my God! And then they analyze. It's a good thing, I guess, but every play is, if it's off this guy, is it off that guy? Sometimes that takes 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
It's favored. I mean, I guess in some ways it's okay, but I mean, it takes away the physicality. I think it's not even close to the way it used to be as far as that goes. They don't want any of that. They don't want any of that. Some of those flagrant fouls that they call now, those were normal fouls 10 or 15 years ago,
right. Well, we're talking about rooting against Brooklyn, just because of what happened with the Celtics and so forth. And I'm watching KD the other night, and the Bucks kind of had him on the ropes. And there are a couple of things that I'm watching, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, hey, look, hats off to KD. He's tremendous. He's unbelievable. That was like a sort of like an epic game that he had. But then by the same token, they were saying he's unstoppable. Well, yeah, he's unstoppable because you can't do anything. What could you really do, to stop him?
I'm watching. They'll call. Yeah, you can't. I don't know if they talk about it ahead of time, but there's certain guys in that league, I think, that they really can do a lot. They're going to do a lot for them to call a foul or get something, a little touch, and it's a foul. And you see that all the time. I mean, and not just him, but he's like he's like one of the major guys. You see that LeBron, obviously the same thing, guys like that. So they're hard to beat, because of that. They got
we saw it last night in the Philadelphia-Atlanta game. I've seen it in a few more of the playoff games. It seems like that the way we talked about earlier, the style of basketball, you're never out of a game. Never. You can be 27 points down, 25 down going into the fourth quarter, still with that three-pointer, get right back in it in a couple of possessions, and the next thing you know, you win the game. Can the three-point line actually be changed even further back? Can you see that?
I saw some teams practice. They call it the 4-point line. They add another 10 feet onto it, and they practice it. They're not obviously it's not a rule or anything. Right. It wouldn't surprise me if that happened in the future too, because now the range is phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I thought when I played I had good range, but these guys there's nothing anymore to them. You know what I mean? It's like, but you know what? You practice it enough. This is what they do, and it's just changed the whole game. And last night I thought, I like Atlanta Hawks. I like the way they play. Yeah. I love to watch the little guy play. I like watching little guys be successful, and they're fun. And because of that, they were able to come back. And it has its positives and negatives, I guess. But I just think there's no more inside game, and that's hurt the game, I think, a little bit.
Well, I know, Coach, you're a fundamentals guy like most coaches are, right? Just, work on the fundamentals, practice. And I'm watching guys not be able to make free throws, and it really killed Milwaukee the other night. Giannis, great player, MVP and everything else. He drives to the lane and he can't make a foul shot. And same thing happened with Philadelphia. It must drive you nuts when these guys can't make foul shots.
It's got to be psychological a little bit. I just think that it's like anything else. Whatever sport it is, if you think too much about it, I think now they go to the line. Am I going to make this? You can't do that. You got to believe that you're going to make the shot. And I think that it's in their head a little bit. that they're not going to make it. Simmons for Philadelphia is the same type way. It cost them the game. And but I don't like, if you're going to foul a guy on purpose off the ball, knowing for that rule, then you should get 2 shots on the ball. Because I don't think that's right. What they're doing to the kid Simmons. He's off the ball and they're just grabbing him, take 2 shots. All right, you're going to do that? You get 2 shots on the ball because that kind of screws up, I don't know. I don't like that rule.
Well, how about when the guy takes the 3-point shot knowing he has no chance to make it, and he comes down and brushes against the guy in front of him? That's terrible.
Well, you stick your leg out, you do this, you do that. And, it's like, no, I know. They've gotten better with that. I'll say that, the officials with that. But it's still, I don't know. I just think the contact used to be much more. I just remember playing myself, and I'm like, you didn't call these type of little fouls. You didn't do that. You know what I mean? You were considered like a baby or whatever. You can do that now. Now it's like, I don't know. That's the only thing I don't like. I think they call too much, and they favor the stars. Can't even touch them sometimes. And that's the game, I guess. Well, they bring in all the money, I guess, and I think what else is right is they make so much money that they're friends with everybody on the teams. All right, we lost. Well, I still got my $20 million and my $40 million. It's different. It's like it just doesn't seem to be the same like yours in 20 years ago.
Now that you're an AD coach and you've been doing it now for 8 years, and you do the hiring, the firing, and all that kind of stuff, what do you take into consideration in today's style, in today's game, when you interview to be a good head coach?
Okay.
Let's say for a high school, even a college, or even an NBA. What does it take today compared to obviously when you coach? It's got to be different in some ways, but what do you look for?
Well,
someone who hires somebody?
What I try to do is I want to see if that person is committed to that sport. In other words, if you're coaching basketball from November to February, okay, what are you doing in March, April, and the rest of the year? Are you going to go to any clinics yourself? Are you going to go watch any colleges play? Are you going to have your kids play summer league? Are your kids going to do any workouts? How invested are you in the sport? Do you love the sport? I look for people that are committed to their sport like that. If I get somebody like that, that's somebody I want to hire. I can always pull them back in, but I want somebody to really love their sport. It's not that easy to get. There are people that like the sport, but they don't want to put the time and effort into it. It's very, very hard to find coaches like that. That's one of the hardest things, I think. So when you get somebody like that, that's a great thing to have, a person that loves this sport.
Paul, I thought he was going to say he's going to have to take some psych classes to handle all these kind of styles of people and players.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. The kids, the hardest coaching job it would be is being the freshman coach of a basketball team, because these kids come in, they've been pampered, they've been allowed to miss practice, they've been allowed to do all sorts of other things, and now they're the star of the teams, and now they've got to mesh with all these other kids, and that coach has to be really a good coach to get them all on the same page. I think that's the most difficult job, is being a freshman coach, really.
Speaking of,
did you coach freshman coaches? And you get these kids coming in, it's like, and they think they're like best thing since sliced bread, and all of a sudden no, you're not. I mean, we got all these other kids too. So,
all right. Well, speaking of difficult jobs, let's just say that Eddie Rodrigues was named the general manager of the Boston Celtics, and you wanted to try to build that team up. Now you got Brown and Tatum. A lot of people say those are the two untouchables. Marcus Smart, probably not untouchable. It does seem like, you talk about you don't have the low post game anymore, but it still seems like if you had like a inner strength down low, that would work with Brown and Tatum. What do you think they have to do to get back where they at least are challenging for the Eastern Conference?
I think they need a big guy that's a big force under there, as far as, even if he's not scoring a lot, just getting rebounds, playing good defense, and be able to hit that jump shot a little bit on the outside. Not a lot, but I think they need that. I think they need a stronger person on the point guard position. I mean, Kemba Walker is good, but he's never there. I mean, he plays one game, he misses the next. They need somebody that's going to be strong there. I don't know. I just think they need something that's going to blend in together. They don't seem to blend in. I don't know. And I don't know if I have the answer to that either. But
that's Brad Stevens.
That's Brad Stevens right now. I like it, Eddie. I like it. Come on in. Our next guy.
I tell you, I can't even comprehend how it must be for these guys to coach an NBA team. You know how hard that must be for these guys. You imagine coaching LeBron James' team? Are you a coach, or are you just like, all right, what are we doing now? LeBron, what are we doing?
Nobody's listening to you.
Yeah, there you go.
Just ignoring you. That's it.
And in college, they listen because their carrot is to get to that next thing. Yeah. So they'll listen to you in college and all that stuff. But in the NBA, once they've made it, unless you're a fringe player and you want to just hold on, yeah, okay, man, yeah, right. I mean, who are they going to fire, him or the coach? I mean, think about
it's like Brad Stevens is drawing up a play. I mean, is Tatum even listening to him?
No. It's like I think they were, but I thought this year they gravitated away from him, and that's too bad. Like something was off all year. And I actually know a guy I thought got the shaft a little bit is Jaylen Brown. I like him. I think he plays hard every game.
Yes.
And I think Tatum's a good player, but I'm not sure he's there every game. I thought Brown was there every game as far as intensity goes. But it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, it's these guys. It all starts from AAU on up, and the whole thing has changed. The whole game has changed. And so now they get to the NBA, and it's the same stuff.
Me and Paul thought that with the Pritchard kid, with Walker being out, we thought maybe Pritchard would get a little bit more time, a little bit more to show his things. And there were times, boy, he looked really good there. And then it just seemed like he went away, and Brad didn't want to play him as much. And then went back to Walker, obviously, when Walker came in. And obviously, Walker makes more money than him, so that's just the way it goes for them. But I think he's another kid that could really, shine for them if he played and builds on what he did this year.
Well, he plays really hard. I love the way
he does.
And that's to me, that's really the most important thing. And I just think that Brad tried to get so many different people instead of staying with some people sometime.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened to him. He'd go in stretches where, he played great. And then if he had a little lousy stretch, he didn't see him a little bit anymore, And I don't know. I just think I don't know if you can do that with these younger guys. But, hey, I'm not in that position with dealing with millions of dollars and all these other issues besides being a player. Who knows? And you got to play Kemba Walker, obviously, because you paid him $36 million. Yeah. But it is what it is. So,
all right. In our closing moments here, Coach, who do you think is going to win the title? And if you think it's going to be the Brooklyn Nets, what team has the best chance of stopping them?
I'm hoping Phoenix wins it. I love the way they play, and they're my. I like the way the Hawks play. I like Phoenix. The guards are really good, and I think they got a shot. I think they got a shot. I'm hoping the Nets don't get that far, but I mean, they probably will, and I'm hoping that if they do, I hope Jazz is good too. They're both good, but I'd like to see Phoenix. Hopefully, they would come through.
You think they can beat them?
I think so. Yeah, I think Chris Paul. I don't know. Chris Paul has a way of doing things with that team, and then the guard, Booker's a tremendous player, but I don't know. The Nets have all those players. If they all do the right things, obviously they should win. I don't want them to win.
Now, listen, you got to look at it on paper. If everybody's healthy, and Irvin's not hurt with his ankle, and Harden doesn't have injuries, it's a different kind of game, obviously, and they're going to be tough to stop. Now, Chris Paul supposedly is on the COVID protocol right now.
Oh,
so
really?
That's going to be a trouble for them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that just came out recently. So you got to watch out for what that's going to mean for Phoenix. Clippers, another good team with Leonard. He didn't play last night. Paul George steps up his game.
Right.
They win. So another good team too. It'll be interesting down the stretch. I think everyone, if they're all healthy, unfortunately, I think the super team.
Yeah, I know.
And Brooklyn hangs on.
I know.
All right. Well, before we let Eddie go, I think it was, I guess it was the 25th anniversary of the 1993 championship. We had Eddie come down and we put together
a little great. You guys did a great job with that, Paul.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing that. I edited some of the clips of the games, and then I interspersed them with, the players and the coach card, right? So if you have a chance, on my Facebook, and maybe I'll post it again that way because it was a couple of years ago. If you go to my Paul Santos Live Facebook page and you scroll back to I think it was 2018 or 19, or it was a couple of years ago. We got some good highlights of playing at the Boston Garden and playing in the state championship and the whole thing. So, and I think it's on my YouTube channel. If it's not, I'll make sure that it is Paul Santos Live YouTube channel because it was a lot of fun. Did you have anybody say, hey, that they enjoyed watching that?
Oh my God! Ridiculous comments after that. I mean, it was
nice.
The charts. Yeah. Oh yeah. And it brought back a lot of nice memories for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, it was a fun night. Everybody, it was well received, and a lot of people comment all the time. Matter of fact, I get it all the time. Hey, I'm watching your 93 team on TV right now, or something like that. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So
it's like what is that? They have that classic ESPN classic,
Yeah, it's funny. They'll send it to me like, "Hey, we're watching you right now," and stuff like that. I was like, "This is great." Yeah, that was a fun time in New Bedford High, and the school was like euphoric about the whole thing. It was a great thing. Hopefully, they can get it back again.
Yeah. Before we let you go, Coach, any advice to the young kids, the younger generation, middle school kids, elementary kids, even high school kids, any advice for them?
Yeah.
In basketball coming up.
There's no shortcuts. All right. You work at it, you become a good player. Don't think that, it's magic. There's no magic formula. Learn to work hard. If this is what you want to do, put in the time, put in the effort, work on your skills. Become really, really obsessed with what you're doing if that's what you want to do. A lot of kids don't do that. They'll go to practice, but then they won't do anything else. You got to work on your skills, and the more you do, the better you're going to be. I see a lot of kids doing that, and I see a lot of kids that don't. And that's all I would advise. If that's what you want to do, put the time and effort into it. Not just going and throwing around. Learn the skills. Get the skills down. Get all that stuff down. That's what I would advise.
All right, we've been spending the show with legendary New Bedford High head coach, former head coach. That's when you hear legendary, that's a compliment. But then on the other hand, it means that
guy. No. But what's funny? I still like it. I still involved with it. We lost.
You're never going to be away from the game.
No, we lost third grade tournament the other day. I felt like I had lost a big New Bedford High game. I can't explain it.
Hey, you're not ready for the over 70 league, but you actually saw somebody. You overheard people talking about the 70 and older league.
Well, that was one around here. I'll start one
Start
around
around here.
Me and Brian and Baptiste will be on our one squad now. We'll play these old.
They're waiting for you. They're waiting for you to turn 70 so you can get drafted. You and Baptiste back together again.
Back together again.
All right, Eddie Rodrigues, thank you so much for being with us. This has been a fun
Thank
half
you. This
hour.
was a lot of
Hopefully
fun.
we can have you back again.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I had a lot of
Coach.
fun. Thank you. Have a nice night.
You
All
too.
right, Paul Santos for Chris Santos. Santos on Sports. We'll see you next time.